Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the news. Inhabitants of Monkam neighborhood in New Bel, Douala 2 subdivision got up Thursday, October 29 with the news of a collapsed building directly behind the New Bel prison. Information from neighbors confirmed that no human life was lost. At the time we visited the area, 2 women and a man were reported wounded and were rushed to the hospital. Elements of the firefighting brigade promptly responded to the call and, together with some young people from the area, engaged immediately to clear off the debris so as to ease circulation. Talking to the quarter head, he informed us that the 3-story building has been under construction for close to 3 months. He described the fact that people involved in such projects always deal directly with the authorities who may not have a mastery of the situation on the ground. He suggested that it should be the quarter head to contact the authorities since they are closer to the people and have a better mastery of the terrain. Locals could not explain what happened exactly. The incident interrupted electricity supply from the neighborhood, and workers from the electricity company could be seen working on the materials. Material damage is enormous as the building collapsed on nearby structures. Investigations are still to determine what the real cause of the accident is. President Paul Biya has declared Saturday, October 31, a national mourning day in honor of victims of the Kumba school massacre. The children were killed last Saturday at the Mother Francisca International Academy by unknown gunmen who stormed the school. The decree signed on Wednesday, October 28 by the President of the Republic stipulates that the national flag shall be on that day flown at half-mast all day long. President Biya, in the release, instructed the security services to take appropriate measures to bring the perpetrators to justice. Recall that parts of Cameroon have been gripped by unrest since Anglophone groups stepped up their push for independence in 2016. Following the barbarity of last week's incident in Kumba, the Network of Human Rights Defenders in Central Africa, REDAC, has added their voice to the many in condemning the act. In a press conference in their Kumasi headquarters in Douala, Thursday, October 29, REDAC stated firmly their outrage against these massacres, which are essentially and increasingly targeting women, young and old, but especially children. They denounced the Kumba killings as one more and one too many. As such, the network pointed out that there is a danger in the house as the escalation of violence has reached worrying proportions. To that effect, REDAC calls on the government of Cameroon to establish an independent fact-finding mission so as to unveil the perpetrators and instigators of these killings that are accumulating in the country, while pointing out that the military solution to the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions has not and will not be the way out. In government's efforts to fight and contain the coronavirus pandemic in Cameroon, the Ministry of Public Health has launched a massive sero-prevalence survey program. Launched on the 23rd of October 2020, the town of Ebolova in the South region has already received the coronavirus detection and prevention teams, and now the town of Ngaoundéré, Adamawa region, has equally welcomed the initiative. Targeting over 1,000 adults and children 5 and above, the survey program would enable MinSante to assess the impact and the exposure of coronavirus as well as to prevent the spread.
The goal of this survey is firstly to determine the socio-economic impact of COVID-19 at these 2 levels, and firstly to also determine the seroprevalence of COVID of antibody of SARS-CoV-2 at the national and regional levels.
In order to effectively carry out their 2-month mission, the trained personnel has a well-drawn plan of action to follow, but not without the collaboration of the local population of the town of Ngaoundéré
to achieve this objective, we up-to-date data sample collector in order to fill a good data collection. And is the reason why today we organize this meeting with administrative authorities and press in order to elucidate them about this investigation in question.
Over to Chad, the second inclusive national forum for evaluating the new constitution put in place since 2018 opens this October 29. With not less than 600 people expected during the 3-day session, participants will examine the fundamental text which consecrates, amongst other things, the abolition of the post of Prime Minister and the establishment of a seal of confession. These decisions are contested by a large part of the political class, particularly the spokesman of La Convention des Partis Insoumis, CPI, who do not agree on the need to participate. He believes that the head of state could have outlined the consequences of the non-participation of a majority of the opposition in the previous forum. The leader of the democratic opposition, Felix Nyalbe, on his part, says he intends to participate as a political responsibility to bring changes, including the re-establishment of a prime minister's office. Also to restore the secular nature of the state, of abolishing the seal of confession, reinstate the age of candidacy of presidential election to 35 years to avoid the exclusion of a majority segment of the population from the high office of the republic. Meantime, counter forums and meetings to review the new constitution are being held. In Guinea-Conakry, opposition leader Cellou Dalein Diallo on Wednesday said that a blockade of his home imposed by the security forces following turbulent presidential elections on October 18 had been lifted. In his words, I quote, "We discovered on the stroke of noon that we could go in and out. They packed out without warning in the same way they had come in." End of quote. Police had blocked Diallo in his home in the capital Conakry after he declared victory a day after the vote, a claim denied by the government and which led to lethal clashes. On Tuesday, mediators from the UN, African Union and regional bloc ECOWAS called on the security measures around the opposition's home to be lifted in the spirit of inclusive dialogue. Diallo added that the fence around the headquarters of his party, the UFDJ, and around his offices remained in place. Despite his victory claim, officials' results showed President Alpha Condé, 82, won the hotly contested election, setting the stage for a controversial third term. Ugandan election. The National Unity Platform (NUP) party has accused police of pulling down campaign posters of presidential aspirant Robert Kyagulanyi alias Bobi Wine in some places and supervising the hanging up of those posters of President Museveni. The NUP Secretary General David Lewis yesterday asked the Electoral Commission to take action against the alleged police vandalism and involvement in partisan politics contrary to the Constitution. They are demanding explanations as to why the police continue to do all these things during an electoral process. These remarks came as the NUP leadership launched the campaign poster of their party presidential flag bearer Bobi Wine in Kampala. Last week, National Unity Platform presented pictures of police supervising the hanging up of Mr. Museveni's posters in Kereka, Wakiso district, while other pictures showed the force dismantling posters of Bobi Wine and throwing them in a pickup truck to take them away. In response to the accusations, the police spokesman Fred Enanga said they had done that only once at Mini Price in the city center to quell an impending clash between NUP and NRM supporters. Transferred from the Algiers hospital on Wednesday, President Abdelmadjid Tebboune was taken to a hospital in Germany for medical examination. The 74-year-old Algerian president said he was self-isolating on Saturday after several high-level aides tested positive for coronavirus. Tebboune, who is said to be a heavy smoker, was admitted right into a specialized care unit in a Navy hospital in Algeria's capital, but there was no official announcement that the president tested positive for COVID-19. The presidency said at the time that his state of health does not raise any concern, but gave no further details. His treatment comes just days before a major referendum on November 1 on changes he has proposed to the Algerian constitution. Tebboune has been in office for less than a year and has replaced the out long-term Algerian president Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Algeria has seen resurgence in novel coronavirus cases in recent weeks. Over 57,000 cases have been recorded in the country, including more than 1,940 deaths. Just as several European countries, Germany is going into a 4-week shutdown of restaurants, bars, cinemas, theaters and other leisure facilities as a measure to curb a sharp rise in coronavirus pandemic. The announcement came Wednesday from Chancellor Angela Merkel as the country's 16 state governors, who are responsible for imposing and easing restrictions, agreed on a partial lockdown in a video conference. It is set to take effect on Monday, November 2, and will last until the end of the month. However, shops and schools are to remain open. Restaurants will be able to provide takeaway food. The Chancellor appealed on civilians not to make inappropriate journeys, adding hotels won't be able to accommodate people on tourist trips. The decision comes as after Germany's disease control agency said a record of almost 15,000 new confirmed cases were recorded across the country in the past day, taking the national total in the pandemic to 449,275. French President Emmanuel Macron has imposed a new national lockdown across France. The information was made public on Wednesday, October 28 by President Macron, announcing new measures to stem a surge in coronavirus patients in French hospitals, warning that the second wave of the virus is likely to be deadlier than the first. Macron said that under the new measures starting on Friday, people would only be allowed to leave home for essential work or medical reasons. The new month-long national lockdown comes in after France has been reporting tens of thousands of new infections per day and is now recording more than 380 new cases each week per 100,000 people. The French president added that the lockdown would be enforced initially until December 1, though schools will remain open while cafes, restaurants and shops will shut down unless they are deemed to be selling essential goods such as supermarkets and pharmacies. Universities, which have been the source of several virus clusters since September, will have online classes only. Infections are rising sharply across Europe and night curfews are in force in several countries. We end today in Sweden, where Brussels' proposal for EU minimum wage guarantee package has been rejected. The proposed new directive plans to be a legal guarantee that a worker from Bulgaria to Luxembourg can earn enough to live from. Since the financial crisis, those who earn the least have suffered the most in terms of not reaping the benefits of economic growth. The European Commission's minimum wage proposal would therefore provide the calculations, and EU member states would then set in their wage based on living costs, house prices, and national gross domestic product, GDP. Alongside Sweden, Denmark has equally rejected the proposals, with both parties saying it is not up to politicians to set the minimum wage. For the European Trade Union Confederation, the best takeaway from the proposal is that collective bargaining would also become the norm, so countries in the East could also see progress with time. Before the directive enters into law, European Union countries would have to all agree on it. European Union countries hope they could do so fast and believe this legal instrument would be the only way to tackle exploitation in Europe. Thanks for watching today's edition of The News. Keep enjoying programs on DBS TV. Good night.